Your search for unbeatable internet speeds is over. Visit Docomo Pacific today and sign up for as low as $60 a month so you can experience our fast, reliable internet speeds for yourself. Docomo Pacific, better together.
Hafiday Tiro, good morning everyone. We are on Capitol Hill with Senator Manny Castro, who will be sharing we'll be having an interview in more depth about your Senate legislative initiative related to Article 12. And so I know we posted your press release early on, and there's been a lot of conversation online. But I just wanted to open the floor first for you to make a statement about your intent.
Sure, and thanks for having me, Tomas, and just a shout out to our community members on island, off island, around the world. Just before we get deep into the dialogue, I just wanted to read out this public statement regarding Senate Legislative Initiative 24-03. So this is a public statement in response to community concerns regarding the Senate Legislative Initiative that I introduced on October 6. So, Hafiday Jan Sijus Masi to all who express heartfelt concerns regarding Senate Legislative Initiative 24-03. Your voices matter, and this initiative has sparked strong emotions, deep historical reflection, and a clear desire to protect what is sacred to all of us: our land, our heritage, and our future. That is precisely why Senate Legislative Initiative 24-03 was introduced, to protect landowners of Northern Marianas descent, NMDs, while adapting to modern economic realities that can no longer be ignored. Let's be clear, this initiative does not sell land, it does not give land away, and it does not force anyone to lease their land for 99 years. What it does provide is optional tools and constitutional protections for landowners, especially the vulnerable, who too often sign 55-year leases without knowing they are giving up future value, sometimes for generations. For too long, unregulated middlemen, foreign investors, and even insiders have taken advantage of landowners by locking them into one-sided agreements that offer no profit sharing, no income protections, and no future upside. This initiative adds mandatory protections in all leases involving NMD-owned land. A stable base rent, so no landowner goes without predictable income. A share of profits or revenues, so landowners benefit from the success of their land. A 20-year review clause to ensure that economic conditions are fairly reflected over time. Full transparency by requiring land leases to be registered and monitored. This is not about removing protections, it's about adding them. We hear comparisons to Hawaii and fears of becoming like other islands where locals were pushed out, but let's also be honest about what is happening here today. Abandoned properties under 55-year leases with no penalty for neglect. Landowners are signing away valuable rights without proper legal guidance. And investors are hesitant to commit to meaningful long-term projects under 55-year limits, leaving us with stalled developments and decaying buildings. SLI 24-03 directly addresses these issues by creating a system that favors both the landowners and responsible, keyword is responsible investors, not speculators looking for short-term gains. SEDA Executive Director Derek T. Sasamoto summed it up well at our last session on October 3rd. In quotes, he said, "I support the intent of this initiative as it will allow for landowners to better leverage their properties. It will also allow investors to have a stronger, more long-term foothold here in the Marianas. The financial clauses seem to not only protect the landowners but also take investor returns into consideration. And I find that to be a good balance, as it should be mutually beneficial. Furthermore, the 99-year term is not mandatory. If a landowner wants a 5-year lease, a 30-year lease, or no lease at all, that remains untouched. This simply gives our landowners more flexibility in negotiating better deals. So let us also clarify. Existing leases will not automatically be extended. No federal law is being violated. The rights of NMD landowners are strengthened, not weakened. To those who say if it's not broken, don't fix it. Respectfully, it is broken. When landowners are being exploited, when buildings are abandoned, and when our young people have no opportunity because investors walk away. This initiative is about ensuring our children and grandchildren inherit not just land, but land that brings them prosperity, not poverty. We welcome continued dialogue, suggestions, and conservative or constructive criticism, but let's work together to build a future where our land serves our people, not just on paper, but in practice. Si Diyos Masi, and thank you for your passion, your wisdom, and your unwavering commitment to protecting the Marianas.
Thank you, Senator. I know that follow-up statement came after the initial introduction, and as we discussed, as it is with the legislative process, this is just the beginning, right? A lot of the initiatives don't really end up as they originated in the first place.
So there's a misconception out there in the public, and sometimes I think this is why education is also important. We really need to not just civics, economics too. And I said that to our PSS commissioner when he was in here. Maybe we need to start mandating gap principles for all government executive, like expenditure authorities. Maybe we need to mandate micro and macro economics classes, but also just civics. So in regards to the process, sorry, getting a call, but in regards to the process regarding legislative initiatives, usually it first gets introduced. You mind if I?
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry,
yeah, we'll
colleagues
just take a
work
break here real quick. All right, well, please stay tuned as we'll be joined with us. Okay, Senator Castro, also manning the phones here in the office this morning, so no worries. And so you're talking about the process because ultimately you want this to be on the ballot for the public to decide, right?
Yes.
And so how does that look like?
Okay, so there's two things, popular initiative and legislative initiative. How is that thing still ringing? Sorry.
I think it's okay. Yeah, it should be okay.
It's
yeah,
okay with your audio.
Yeah.
Sorry to our public.
Yeah, this is a legislative initiative, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, the legislative initiative, it goes through either house first, and then both houses have to agree. And if passed, then it goes to the election commission and put on the ballot. So it's not a bill. It doesn't become law automatically. It's actually a two-step process, actually even three-step, because when we introduce it, then it gets assigned to a committee. We do our public hearings on both sides. meaning like the Senate will do its public hearing, then the House will do its public hearing. Then once that process is completed, if the Senate passes it, goes to the House, they do their public hearing, the House passes it, then it will then go to the Election Commission to put on the ballot, and the people will decide which way. So if you notice, a lot of the bigger issues, I usually opt for that route. I would go popular initiative, but that requires a lot of funds to go out and really do the outreach. And right now, given that we're in austerity, it's cost prohibitive at this time. So it's not to say that I won't go that route, but I'm trying to find the best way to get the job done given the parameters that we have right now.
I know a lot of the comments too were, what's wrong with 55 years? And some of the concerns were, even if someone were to decide to do 99 years, even though, like you said, it's just an option, that's almost, if not a whole generation removed, right? From the process. So what's your, I know you said this is just an option, no one's forcing you to do 99 years, but what's your response to the concerns about opening that window,
So, the main consideration here is really the economy. It's been 55 years for long, and in fact, other jurisdictions like the Republic of Palau, they did this years ago. So in Palau, they have the 99-year lease. And at the same time, they still have protections, the same protections for our NMDs. Like the Palauans have the same land ownership clauses in their own constitution. So, this is a legislative initiative, so we cannot put a lot of the procedural stuff, but I also do have companion legislation that will kind of strengthen this process, which is like which our legal counsel is working on right now, which is to require real estate like brokers to regulate that industry, because anybody can be a real estate agent, and they're not following best practice, or they're just making land transactions, and sometimes it's not fair to the landowner, and that's where we get into problems, because I think the best way to avoid this situation is just to get more of our people to be financially educated on these kind of deals and process.
Have you heard that personally from investors that a 99-year lease would make the deal for them? Or?
Actually, I also got this from CEDA, which deals with a lot of the investors, mm-hmm. right? But we also have to understand our market. Most of our hotels here, whether it's Kensington or World Resort, our big hotels, they're all private equity companies. So, this kind of process is actually good for private equity companies. And what's the difference? What's the whole concept of private equity is it's not a publicly traded kind of deal. It's like private investors pull in their money, invest in assets with once they build it up, their intent is to either sell it. And that's also the things we have to monitor, right? It's different from a company like, let's say, like Tan Holdings or Triple J, which they're here. They're gonna so we need to kind of like align our regulations with the types of investment and industries that we're trying to attract or maintain. Otherwise, they end up walking away. And my concern with our government is there's so much red tape that even though we have a lot of incentives that make it enticing to invest here, our process is so tedious that really investors sometimes do walk away. It's just like also a bank, right? If you only have like 40 years left or even 10 years left, would they loan money to you, like the money that you need to really reinvest in your investment, your property? Likely not. So, and take this really is not something we're deciding. It's merely a question that we're giving the people to decide, is it yes or no, right? But we have to do something about the economy. We like tourism. We've been on tourism for how many years? Like I left Saipan and in 2000 to further my education, and I left on a 747 Northwest Airlines jumbo jet, and when I graduated from college, I came back on a Cape Air prop, right? Like all the 747s were gone. But why were those 747s here? Because we had a robust garment industry and a tourism at its peak. But tourism is hurting everywhere. I'm not saying we're gonna abandon tourism, but we have to help them because competition is pretty high, and this kind of amendment would help investors make a longer commitment to the CNMI rather than short term. Like we need long haul kind of investments that are gonna bring in the GDP. We can't just rely on federal grants. It's in our best interest to get back to where we were before, where we had so much money, locally generated funds, that we didn't need Uncle Sam's money. We were more than self-sufficient to take care of our own. And that's where we need to get back to.
And I know some people were wondering what the protections are. I think if you look at your proposal, it's the periodic 20 years financial review, and then also giving the legislature some teeth to enforce some of the standards, right? So are those the protections you're talking about? Or
yes. So, some of the families, for example, like in Guam, that have really prime real estate, their lawyers embed these kind of protections into the land lease or the contract, just so that all the money is not like grandpa decided to lease the land and boom, they're millionaires for the first 2 years and then everybody is broke for the next decade or decades to come. So this like annual base rent or profit sharing, it kind of like adds, like every year there's either some kind of dividend or royalty that goes back to the landowner, whether it's the original landowner or the next of kin, so that the family is not back into poverty. Yeah, right. So again, this is not a finished product. The way it usually works is we get our ideas, we vetted ideas for the most part, but as we go through the public hearings and committee process, more people give in their input, additional research is done, and sometimes those things are stricken out. So like I said, in Palau's law doesn't have those financial protections. It's just basically 99 years, that's it. Like that it's a very short law that they did. I think it's more than a decade. I think it was President Romengasao that was, when it became law.
And is the idea that in this 20-year financial review, if things are not shaping up what it is to be, then the 99-year lease could be terminated, essentially, or?
Anything can be. I mean, we don't want to keep changing our constitution, right? Like that's our root, like that's our supreme kind of law. So we don't want to be changing it in fact, even our laws, like we shouldn't be changing it all the time. The key thing here is we have a lot of good laws. The problem is the implementation or the enforcement of those laws that we have, and some laws we need to do better environmental scanning. Like for example, like like when IPI came in, if we did our proper environmental scanning, we would see what's gonna happen. And that's a process in business. Like, you do your environmental scanning, you look at what's happening politically, what's happening, like economically in those markets. And basically, while we were building up this casino and trying to develop a gaming industry targeting the Chinese market, the Chinese government was making it illegal to gamble outside of China. So then you see like the CNMI government is forecasting a net increase in its revenue, but the data outside is showing the opposite. And when we continue to do these kind of things, that's how we end up in this situation. So
All right.
due diligence is important.
Yes, and I know this is the very beginning of the conversation, and it's not the first time we're having a conversation about Article 12. So what's your message to the community moving forward? What happens now?
So this is not a new concept. In fact, Senator Paul, I believe, introduced this in the 19th legislature.
Mm-hmm.
His bill or Senate Legislative Initiative at that time, it added another component for like corporations to be like, if 51% of the shareholders are NMD, then the corporation can be NMD. Like, so I'm trying to keep it simple. Like, I feel like if we added that, it's gonna make it more harder for the voters to decide. So I think what's most important, and if our economy is calling for something that's balanced, like flexible, right? Because I firmly believe in Article 12. Some people out there are saying like, self-interest. I have no interest in selling my property. Like, I have property from my grandparents or my dad, but I have no interest. But I'm not gonna stop someone else from being able to use to be able to leverage their property to improve their life, right? So what's the concept of thinking right here? I see a lot of manomko that they're poor right now cash-wise, but they're millionaires in terms of property. And some of them, none of their kids are here. It's just them. So they're retirees that have property that, if we open the lease period to 99 years, but put in those financial protections, it's gonna open the market. So you can get more for your property rather than just the same NMDs and local businesses exploiting our own people, right? Your market is so small that say Fulano over there doesn't have the millions that is your property is worth, or hundreds of thousands. But if you open your market, then this is mainly a question for the people to answer. And yes, it's maybe loud on social media because most people are not reading the bill and the intent. They're not understanding the economic realities that we are seriously facing, like right now. And many of these guys, some of them are off island. And we got to think about history. Why is Article 12 in place, and why are some Chamorros, for example, don't qualify for land? Because during the Japanese administration, while the people here were suffering, there's a bulk of families that went to Guam or were living the life. So that's, Article 12 actually only protects those people that were here during the struggle. So history is very important also. Like, we have to ask ourselves, why did our founding fathers, or why did the people vote this way for certain things? If we're gonna amend it, we have to understand the history about it. And even Palau, like I commend Palau. They were the last to leave the trust territory the trusteeship. They saw, hey, what's happening in the CNMI, what's happening in the Marshalls, and then Palau was the last. So to me, Palau got the best deal because they were really able to. At the same time, I think we also got a good deal, first mover advantage, but there's some costs that maybe we didn't see that's gonna happen, like federalization of immigration, which kind of hurts our economy right now.
All right, Senator, I'm sure we'll be following this as it progresses. We just got one comment here, put it on the ballot. So
Yeah.
it seems that there's also some support for that.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest understanding is a lot of people are looking at this as a bill, but it's not a bill. It's a legislative initiative which is basically the legislature saying, hey, we're not gonna make this decision. The people need to make this decision.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Your search for unbeatable internet speeds is over. Visit Docomo Pacific today and sign up for as low as $60 a month so you can experience our fast, reliable internet speeds for yourself. Docomo Pacific, better together.